Come on, move that mountain. Don't you let nothing get in your way.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am so excited about this particular episode at Move That Mountain. I have an incredible guest. I got to put my glasses on because I do not want to miss what I got to say about this gentleman. Born in Chattanooga, Tennessee, set sail at the age of 17 for college, New Orleans, Tulane University, where he was a music director for the student-run radio station. He achieved a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology. Went off to California, Epic Records, where he worked as a publicist to the stars. Learned his craft as far as marketing and all the tools that he needed at the time. But then took something incredible, a leap of faith, and left that job. Went back to school, this time Berklee School of Music in Boston. Graduated magna cum laude. I mean, he was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame. He's also played as a musician, a bassist. As a bassist, he's worked with over 50 rock and roll Hall of Fame inductees. Some people haven't even worked with one. There's so much we're going to talk about here. He's an author of a wonderful book called Am I Famous Yet? Memoir of a Working Class Rock Star. Can you see that? Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please let me introduce you to this wonderful man and a friend of mine, Ivan, better known to his colleagues as Funk Boy Bartley.
Nice to see you, Dave. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it, man.
My pleasure, man. I mean, this man is an amazing person. He exemplifies all the things being someone who is active in life and achieving goals. I mean, Chattanooga, Tennessee. I mean, how come we didn't lose you to country music?
Chattanooga, Tennessee is home of Bessie Smith and the Impressions.
Oh, yeah.
Believe it or not. So there's all kind of music. We play both kinds of music in Chattanooga, country and western. We got them both down there. I don't know. I went off for the big city. I headed down to New Orleans, and there I got into the New Orleans soul, funk, tradition, seeing the Meters and the Neville Brothers and all that kind of stuff. That was always my music. I grew up, my mother was a big fan of Gladys Knight and the Pips. So we always had the 45s of Midnight Train in the house. And, you know, I grew up with King Floyd and Sly and the Family Stone as much as Willie Nelson, I think, down there. Yeah.
But then Tulane University, and you became the music director for their radio station.
That's right.
College run station. And there, of course, you met a lot of artists that you met the Neville Brothers there, didn't you?
Yeah. We would co-promote concerts at the radio station. So constantly when artists were coming through towns, the record companies would call us and, can you interview so-and-so, put them on the air, promote the show, that kind of thing. And the Nevilles, were one of the great grossing local talent acts, so we were constantly promoting their shows. They would do shows for fundraisers for the radio station. So I've known Aaron and Art since 40 years. I've known them a long time.
Aaron and Art, he has a first name, and it's not just the Neville Brothers. But this is what this man, he's just a natural person. He's a humble man. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for a few years now.
Yeah, a few years.
And the one thing that always struck me about this man, with all the stars he's worked with, when he walks into a room, very humble, very down to earth, and it sets everybody at ease. But he doesn't play games. He comes totally prepared. Now, you had a career. You graduated college. You went off to California. You had a great job there.
I had a corporate Amex card, Dave.
Corporate Amex card. Come on, I barely have a credit card. And this man, with all that, gave it up.
Yeah.
Took a leap of faith, went back to school for music.
Yeah.
The best school in music, Berklee College of Music in Boston, graduated magna cum laude. And then the story started, your live performances as a bassist.
It may be the second act, because you're right. I already had sort of a whole music business career that was happening before that. But yeah, once I finished Berklee, got back to New York City, that's when things started to progress to where they are now, Took 30 years, but yeah.
But the thing I noticed is that you take leap of faith. But
Yeah.
it's not a random leap of faith. What the show's about are people who take leap of faith, but for you, it's different. It's not just a magical dream where you get some tea leaves and you decide you're going to do something. You actually prepare for it.
Well, what happened was I was in the music business, and I found out that the music business is about business. It's not really about music. It's about marketing. So, I had a gentleman who was the vice president of product management for Epic Records told me, he said, I don't know anything about music. I could be selling soap. And I was like, that really struck me. I'm like, wow, because we got into it because we're artists, we're musicians. So I decided, what I really wanted to do was be on the creative side, and there wasn't really anything else that I wanted to do. And it was kind of a difficult realization, because you realize, to embark in a career in the music business, in music as a musician, there's no guarantee of success at all. You're taking a big chance, really, in a way. But so when I decided there was really nothing else that I wanted to do, I turned back in the corporate Amex card and said, I'm just going to go over here. And then I decided what I needed to do, if I was going to really try to make a go of it, was to educate myself fully, because I really was sort of kind of self-trained at that point, and had taken some private lessons. But, I decided if I'm going to be a professional, I need to have the professional skills to be able to work in all these different genres that you and I have worked in over the years. You learn the arranging skills and the sight reading skills and all the music theory skills, so that when I finally got back to New York, if somebody gave me Shirley Alston Reeves's book from the Shirelles, like suddenly I could prepare the show, and I knew how to read it and perform without a rehearsal. You show up the first day and it's got to be right, kind of thing. And that skill set has sort of served me well over the time. But you're right, it was a very deliberate thing that I did to prepare myself for, still no guarantee of success, but at least I had the tools going in, I hoped.
But listen to this story. This story is not over. Now, while most musicians will be happy to do these live shows, doors kept opening for you. He wound up on Broadway. 12 Broadway shows you've been a part of.
That's not true, Dave.
It's more?
It's 13 now. Yeah.
Okay, another question for you. Now, in the book, it says you played with 50 Musical Hall of Famers.
Correct.
Has that number changed?
We're holding steady at 50. We're at 50.
Because I remember it was 45. And I saw a paper where it says 46.
42. Well, yeah, over the years, it kind of, but the most recent one we were just talking about him the other day was Jeff Skunk Baxter from Steely Dan and the Doobie Brothers. I played with him on a Sam Moore gig down at a festival in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico.
Man.
And there's a picture you have of me telling Skunk Baxter what to do, which I am in no way qualified to do. But so I played with him. It's on the resume. It's legitimate. Yeah. We performed together.
Knocked that one off.
And then a couple of years later, he got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So my count went up by 1 without me having to lift a finger. I was just like, oh, now it's 50, because it was 49. I was holding at 49 for a long time. Skunk put me over the top. He gave me the nice 5-0.
He gave it a 5-0.
Yeah.
But okay, so you play with all these stars. I mean, let's rattle off a name. I told you before, with 50 Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, you ought to do a song like Billy Joel did, where we didn't start a fire and just rattle off 50 names of all these stars you worked with.
I think that would make me possibly appear that I was kind of full of myself. So
I think so. Well, somebody ought to write it then.
Maybe somebody else could sing it.
Maybe I'll write the song and I'll sing it, then they can blame me for being over the top with you.
And I'll play bass on it.
Okay, that's good.
Very good.
But you play with all these people. There's other things. I mean, you're grounded, and I think that part of your grounding is family, because I know how close you are to your grandma.
That's right.
And that keeps you grounded.
It does.
I mean, for all the things, this business is, you could easily be pulled away by how would you say, the worldly desires that are out there.
Yeah.
Because what is our music? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll and alcohol, right? But how did you navigate all that and not fall heavy prey to that?
I think you're right. It sort of comes from the way that you're raised. Like that was always the familial ethic that I came from. Like I didn't come from a line of people that were big partiers. I came from very sort of grounded people, and they were always very supportive and they gave you a sense of self-worth. I think a lot of people who are drinking and drugging and partying are trying to fill a hole in their lives, kind of thing. And we had enough foundation that there's never temptation for me. Like I was never attracted to that kind of thing. And I also find that it diminishes your capacity to perform, and that was very important to me always was, the perfectionism that we have, when we work together, we want the show to be right. So if you're like, 3 sheets to the wind before you go on stage, it's not going to be right, so that it always felt like a detraction from the professional goal. So that's why I never really got into that.
But you didn't want your family to know that you went off the deep end, because you had that kind of thing too, where
Right,
you
right.
you cared about how they felt about you, how they viewed you.
Sure.
But the other aspect to all this is that, you know, one of the things I try to stress about life and people is that we're all given opportunities. You know, the doors swing open for us all the time. And you said something that resonated well with me. You know, you walk through a door. You do get opportunities to walk through a door. But can you get back in that door a second time? What keeps that door open to you always? You know, how do you manage that in your life? A lot of times people are given opportunities and they're scared, you know, that the fear keeps them from following through.
That's right.
So with all you've worked with some of the most, what people look at as just superstars. I mean, when you stand in what Sting perform, or any of these artists that you perform with, I mean, to walk into that room and have enough confidence not to fall apart, fear. I mean, I know from knowing you that you come totally prepared,
Right.
which is very important. But how do you consistently walk from one great worldly opportunity to another and not falter? How do you do that?
Well, none of us are immune from making mistakes, you know, and I certainly have made my share of them. But as you say, it's the preparation sort of thing. You know, when you have a gig like that, you know, you really need to do your homework and make sure you're on your game and ready to do what they need you to do. Walking in the door with somebody like Sting is daunting, you know, because he's one of the most powerful people in the music business, and, you know, somebody I've been a fan of since I'm a kid. The first high school talent show I ever played, we played Message in a Bottle and Roxanne by the Police. You know, and then fast forward a mere 27 years later, I'm on stage playing those with him at the Obama inauguration. You know, it was hard to sort of keep the perspective to realize that, you know, that high school student was now getting to play with the guy who wrote and sang those songs. It's scary. It's scary. But again, it was the 10,000 hours sort of theory. You know, we've done this so long for so many different configurations, like, you know, I can keep the high school fanboy at bay because I got a job to do. And my job that night was backing up Sam Moore. It was Sam Moore's band.
That's what I was going to ask you about,
Right.
Sam. Now, Sam is a mercurial talent.
Yeah.
I mean, this man, his voice just keeps rising and rising
Yeah.
to another pitch, another range. And he doesn't seem to run out of top to his
Right.
voice.
That's right.
Which I say that he's a sort of talent that he probably improvises a lot,
A lot. Yeah.
you know, and change the script on you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's probably for someone like you as a musical director who expects it to go from A to Z, okay?
Yeah.
And would like it to be that.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you work with talents like that, how do you make that adjustment? Come on. tell me
Well,
that.
and just to be clear for anybody in the audience who doesn't know, we're talking about Sam Moore, who
Sam
was
and Dave.
half of the duo Sam and Dave. So very famously sang "Hold On, I'm Coming," "I'm a Soul Man," songs like that. So with Sam, and when I would have new musicians come into the show or pick up musicians who were using horns in a foreign city or something like that, what I would tell them is say, we have the charts. I have arrangements written out for everything that Sam does. And I would tell the musicians, the intro of the chart is a vamp. It's an open vamp. We're going to do what he does. He's going to interact with the audience. He's going to ad lib. He's going to make stuff up, whatever he's going to do. Then when he starts singing the first lyric, we're at letter A on the chart. And the chart's going to read straight down. So everything intro is a vamp. The chart reads down, and every outro is a vamp, because he's going to go out and improvise with the audience, call and response to what he's got to do. So, you know, we had that combination of allowing him to be loose, but also have the band be very tight. So then whenever he was finished doing whatever he was going to do with the audience, improvising, you know, getting people to clap along, sing along, whatever he's going to do, he would just kind of give me a look over his shoulder, and I would turn around and make the band, you know, we had an ending written, like, so the ending's going to be this. So this band sounded like completely tight, but it also gave him the latitude to do whatever he wanted on stage in these different interludes. Every intro and every ending was like an open vamp. So
But let me ask a question.
that's
This is
how we
something
handled that.
that I think about. Do you take time? I know you take time in preparation of the music. You learn the charts, the keys, everything else, and arrangement. How much time do you put into the psychology of the artist you're going to work with? Do you do any homework about their background, their personas? Does that even come into play, or you just learn the music and you just open your mind to whatever happens in the room?
Yeah,
How do you do it?
I don't know that that's a deliberate thing. You know, I do have a psychology degree, but I don't, you know, I'm an amateur psychologist. I don't think that I'm trying to sort of figure out anybody's mindset. However, once you've encountered an artist and see how they work, and then the next time you encounter them, you realize, okay, this person tends to do sort of this, that, and the other thing, and they get upset if the drummer rushes or whatever. You know, you start to learn their personality and then sort of figure that into your calculus and how you're going to deal with them going forth. So it's not a deliberate thing, but it's
Instinctively.
Maybe, yeah.
Well,
I do think
before
about
we
it.
lose this time, there's something I want to do because 50 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees you work with. So you wrote a book,
I did. I did.
and the book is called "Am I Famous Yet?"
Uh,
Memoir of a Working Class Rock Star.
right.
Now, in this book, you've got so many stories of encounters with artists and things that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, this book, first of all, before we go further, where is it available to people?
It's available on Amazon.com, and everything's available at my website, funkboy.net. So everything, the links to the book, so it's all through Amazon, published worldwide.
I want to buy a copy of this
What?
book right now. Yeah, man, I'll tell you. I saved up this money. I found this corner to where I could sell like pencils. People still need pencils. So I'm buying this book from you. And I'm going to have you autograph this book for me.
Oh, man.
Because I believe in supporting the arts now.
There's a sale right there. Look
Yeah,
at that.
now I see. Now this book it's if you want to get into music as a budding artist, I think this is a good book to read because music is not, and I will be the first to tell you, it's not just the nuts and bolts of learning the keys, the notations, and all that. You also have to prepare your mind for the psyche of it. You have to learn to appreciate what you do. So all these stories in here are little anecdotes and ways that it can make you a better artist in the long run. So he's going to sign this to me later as his good old buddy pal who used to push him around on his tricycle. That's what I used to do for him. But go check this book out. But this book, what made you write this book?
What made me write the book is when we would be sitting between sound check and the show, we'd be sitting at a dinner table backstage somewhere, and something untoward may have happened that day. Travel, technical difficulty, whatever it is, something happened. And then at dinner, it always reminded me of another story of something that happened that was even crazier last time. So I would tell the stories around the band table. You know, it's like, you know, this reminds me of the one time when we were in Brazil and such happened. So the guys would tell me, guys and women would also tell me, it's like, you know, you need to write these stuff down. Like, you need to write a book. And I was thinking, yeah, maybe I've got enough of these kind of anecdotes. So about 4 years ago, I started writing things down, you know, and collecting all these crazy stories. A lot of stories in the book are just when things go haywire, and it's just comic to us, you know. It's like the guy cleaning up after the elephant in the circus says, "What? And quit show business?" You know, what we do. It's a constant comedy of errors and whatnot. And then, so I got the book done about 4 years ago, almost finished. And then during the pandemic, when we had all this time on our hands to sit home, we sat home for 15 months, unable to perform live. I really had the time then to sort of like get it edited, get it formatted, get it, you know, copy edited and put out. And the response has been really very nice. People really seem to be enjoying it.
Well, you know, Ivan, the thing about this Am I Famous Yet? Memoir of a Working Class Rock Star, he is a rock star. But I think you're enjoying the best side of being a rock star. You're known by all these musicians who put you at the pinnacle as far as the first call to call Ivan. But like you said, you can walk down the street and nobody bothers you. And it's amazing. You're able to provide for yourself and, you know, make a great living at it. I mean, you have been blessed.
What?
But do you want to be a rock star where everybody knows this? Let me ask you that. Does that drive you at all?
I don't know. You know, like I do a lot of rock starry things, you know, some famousy things, and I stand next to famous people a lot. But fame is a tenuous thing. Like, even if you were back in the day, Janet Jackson, she sold 10 million copies of her record. That means in the United States alone, there are arguably 320 other million people who don't know who you are and don't care. You know, like my parents probably never knew who Janet Jackson was, you know. So fame is a weird thing. And what I say, like, when I come out of the Broadway theater, like if I was playing Rock of Ages on stage at Broadway, you know, the band's on stage, we're in makeup and costume, and we're rocking full out like we're playing a concert. And we're famous when we come out the stage door. People want us to sign their playbills and take pictures. And you're famous up until the time you turn the corner on 8th Avenue. And then it's right back into obscurity again.
Nobody knows
like,
you, yeah.
Nobody knows you.
But now you're playing in a rock band, Humble Pie.
Yeah.
You know, and how did that come about? And you know,
It was one of those things we were talking before we went on air about, you know, you never know what gig is going to lead to what gig.
mhm.
And the Humble Pie thing happened. You know, I met my friend Jimmy Coons, who was the lead singer with Cactus and Savoy Brown back in the day. And he'd been hired to sing with Humble Pie, and they needed to put in, you know, needed a bass player.
Mm.
And I know him from the jam sessions in New York, you know, these, you know, Monday night $50 gigs. And when the opening came up, you know, he's like, oh, Ivan would be good for this, you know, so because he knew I would prepare the music. And, you know, I have a certain look or the way I carry myself, or whatever that
Yeah,
seemed
you
to
look like it could be in a rock band.
You're right, exactly. You know, like, so it seemed like I could possibly fit in with the band, and they gave me a shot, and it's just been great. It's
Well,
been
that
really
that
cool.
happened with Broadway too, where
Yeah.
somebody saw you and said, "Hey, we'd like to sub," and next you know you're doing 12, 13
13.
Broadway shows.
That's right.
I mean, I need about 3 sessions with you because your life is just way. There's so much you haven't touched upon. But quickly, if you could tell me a story that would make me want to go to the book. Just give it a little quick
Oh, some
story.
of the crazy stories. Well, I tell you about the Obama inaugurational ball. That's in the
Yeah.
in the book. There's all kind of crazy stuff. One of the stranger gigs we did, which I detail in the book too. People often ask me, like, "What's the strangest gig you ever did?" I played a wedding gig once at a decommissioned synagogue in the Lower East Side. It's called the Angel Orangesan Center. It's like this beautiful old Gothic cathedral. It's kind of spooky in there. They've got it lit, and it looks like the set for a vampire movie, right? And we played a wedding there for no guests. We had a trio in the corner. It was just the couple. They just unbelievably expensive floral arrangements. They were sitting. Their table was sitting in an island. They'd made an island with a moat with trees above it, and all this, you know, stage lighting. It had to be a $200,000 wedding with no guests. It was just a couple, and we joked about it in the band. We said this is like the Hannibal Lecter wedding, because if we had read next day that the bride was consumed after the, you know, we wouldn't have been shocked. It was the oddest thing you've ever seen. We were, you know, we didn't know how to act the whole time we were there. We just played our music and kind of went home.
Is everybody helping?
Right. There's no crowd work. You know, you can't talk to them. In fact, one time the groom got up to use the men's room or something, and we were playing "Fly Me to the Moon." You know, it's really quiet.
Fly me to the
Right?
moon.
And she turned to us. She turned to us and she spoke. She said, "That's our favorite anime theme." We're like, first off, Frank Sinatra is an anime theme, and second off, she spoke directly to us. Like, do we react? We're like, "Oh, yeah, great. Hope you're enjoying your evening." It was one of the stories in the book. Yeah.
It's amazing, man. I mean, and we haven't even touched up. We just touched on a corner of your life, you know. And I guess let's say what music is. Music is a healing force. You know, we were really essential workers during the pandemic, but we couldn't do our essential job
That's right.
because it involved gathering people around,
Mhm.
and we couldn't do that. What would you share in the closing moments of the show? What would you share with the general public about life? What you learn about life, and what you think is the most important aspect of living life?
I mean, that's a big loaded question, but you know, as you say, like what we do is we communicate with people and we create communities. Like even if there are 10 people at a concert or in a bar or whatever, you know, you're creating a community of those 10 people, and you're having a sort of a shared experience. So when we were prevented from going out and doing these things in public during, you know, that 15 months we sat home, I think people were really missing that sense of community, of people gathering together and being unified in a certain rhythm, in a certain harmony, in a certain melody, you know, and singing along and clapping along. Like people really need to have that kind of release in their lives, you know. And I think what we do, you know, I remember, and there's another story I think I tell in the book. Like I was playing at a jam session house band at the Dark Star Lounge on 72nd Street on a Monday night. It was 3 a.m. There were 2 drunks in the bar, and I was talking to a friend of mine at the bar, and I said, I just don't know, you know, if what I'm doing is that important right now, because it didn't feel important at that hour. And she reminded me. She's the one who told me. She's like, "No, you're creating community. You're having people that are together having an experience that you're uniting human beings, and that's not a small thing. It's not an unimportant thing on whatever scale you do it on." And it really kind of turned my head around and made me sort of get back in the game and realize, you know, She was right. That's the way to look at these things. Like, do what you do.
Charlie Thomas from the Drifters.
There
I
he
had a
is.
chance to work with him for almost 10 years, the Drifters, and that's one of the iconic artists. But
He's a beautiful
again,
cat, man.
ladies and gentlemen, we need 3 sessions at least with this man here because he's done so much in his life. But one lesson I say that he has taught us that go after your dreams, but prepare. And that's a lesson. This is what this episode is about. You will have opportunities in life, but for it to succeed and for you to get another chance to do it again, you have to come totally prepared. There are no shortcuts. In my old country, they say there's a thing called shortcut draw blood, which means that you're going to hurt yourself if you take shortcuts. Hurt yourself physically or even career-wise or life-wise. So this man has exemplified that to me. I'm so happy he was here. Ivan Funk Boy Bodley.
I really appreciate
Again, the website.
Funkboy.net, FUNKBOY.net. Spelling
book.
counts.
Am I Famous Yet? Memoir of a Working Class Music Star, Rock Star. Need my glasses on, I'm trying to be vain. But definitely you got to check this book out. It's well worth the read. And if he gets a chance to see this man live, you'll see the other side of him. Ivan, thank you, my friend.
I appreciate it, Dave. Thank you so much.
Say hi to, give her a hug for me, please.
I will do that.
You know, I got a partial spot for
I know you do.
grandmas, so.
I'll tell my grandma. He said, hey.
Yeah, tell her. She
I
says,
appreciate
who, Dave, who? But I don't care, all right?
All good, man.
Ivan Bodley.
Thank you. Thanks.
The way we move to our favorite song in the backseat, girl with the radio on. I am Mr. Fire. I want to feel the rolling off our bodies in the midst of a heat. The way we move to our favorite song in the backseat, girl with the radio on.